If ever there was a John F. Kennedy moment possible for an automotive company, last night Tesla just had theirs. Tesla hasn't just doubled down, they've tripled down, they've quadrupled down. They've really shifted the future of the company in a very public way. Now, most of this shouldn't be a surprise because Tesla's been saying this stuff all along. However, there were some surprises last night in their earnings call that shocked even me. And that's the point of today's video. We're going to talk about what happened last night, what surprising changes happened, and what this might mean for the future of Tesla. So last night, Tesla announced their earnings, and it was a pretty spectacular earnings call, actually, given the fact of the rate market that we're in, the economy, the state that it's in, and high costs overall, certainly tariffs, certainly supply chains. Tesla pulled off quite the achievement. In fact, they just posted automotive margins that are world class for this last quarter, and that is in this crazy time that we're in where it's challenging for automotive companies to figure this out. In fact, most have started shifting away from electric vehicles, including famously the F-150 Lightning or the Chevy Bolt that just came back and is just announced as being canceled, which is just crazy. Nonetheless, let's get back on point here. Tesla surprised everybody, I think, last night when they officially announced the sunsetting of the Model S and the Model X. Of course, the Model S was the car that really set things off and made electrification a thing. The Model X came in support of that also. The S and X are foundational in EVs today, and to see them being sunset is kind of sad, to be honest with you. But from a business perspective, just looking on a piece of paper, it makes a lot of sense. The volume is something like 3% of the total volume at Tesla, so it's not a huge volume product anyways. However, it does fit and fill in a specific niche that the Model Y and Model 3 doesn't. For example, the Model S Plaid is a power horse, fast, very large sedan that the Model 3 just isn't. Model 3 has a performance variant. It's not quite as fast, but it's a small car. Model S fills that void. The Model X is a much more spacious SUV than the Model Y is and can much more comfortably fit 6 or 7 adults than the Model Y can. And that's kind of the sadness of this story, is basically Tesla is exiting two very big and important segments of the automotive market, but quite honestly, they're expensive and most people can't afford them anyways, so I guess it does kind of make sense on paper. There's also a hopeful side of me that is probably not going to be realistic, but deep down inside, it makes me hope, man, if they got rid of the Model X, are they just making room for the Cyber SUV to finally happen? And that would be amazing, but probably not likely. And speaking of Cybertruck, that was part of the discussion last night also. What is the future of Cybertruck? Elon Musk famously said that Cybertruck, if it doesn't end up selling well in its current form factor, they'll just make it look like a normal truck and sell it that way. That question was specifically answered last night. What happens to Cybertruck line? Is it able to start producing a new variant like the Cyber SUV? And Lars really took that question and ran with it, and his answer was that the Cybertruck production line, it was made to be flexible, able to make autonomous vehicles, able to make multiple vehicles, multiple products. Elon Musk followed that up by saying, in an autonomous future, a autonomous truck for delivery makes a lot of sense. And this is going into the next part that, once again, I argue Tesla has been saying this all along, but might be a little bit of a shock. Tesla is all in on autonomy, of course, and they are doubling down on that. The message last night was the Roadster, which is set to possibly unveil in April, is likely to be the last vehicle with pedals and a steering wheel that Tesla will introduce. That is a very sad moment for people who love cars and are car enthusiasts. Example, the Cybertruck, without a steering wheel and pedals, this really isn't anything special because this vehicle is made to do so many incredible things off-road and all this utility stuff that require a steering wheel and pedals. But if it's just going to be a pavement princess and deliver items, then I guess you don't need a steering wheel and pedal. But it's no longer a Cybertruck at that point, in my opinion. And this leads to where Tesla has gone all in. This is their JFK moment. Tesla made it very clear they're not just all in on autonomy and all in on robotics. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They actually anticipate spending $20 billion in capital this year in support of these initiatives. First, they're going to start production on Optimus. We're going to have Gen 3 Optimus revealed, I guess, this quarter, here in the next few weeks. And that's going to be the first one to kind of go into production. That version of Optimus is expected to go up to about 1 million units of capacity, and then Gen 4, Gen 5 to come later. But that requires, I guess, new facilities, and they stated an 8 million square foot facility to make 1 million robots a year. Now that doesn't make sense, but if they get to 100 million in a future generation, then I suppose an 8 million square foot facility does start to make sense. Next, they reiterated something they've said in the past, and that is that their current partners are unable to keep up with their demands. Example, NVIDIA, they've asked how many chips they can make, what's the maximum output, and it's just not enough to support autonomy, to support Optimus, all of these things. So Tesla has decided, hey, we've just got to do it ourselves. And this isn't the first time Tesla has done something like this. And this is that we choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And this is certainly not going to be an easy achievement to start making chips for all of these products. But nonetheless, Tesla is going all in on this. That, on one hand, is going to be really good for the security of production, the security of supply of these critical components here domestically. On the other hand, it's a huge cost to do, and it's certainly a huge risk. I think if anything has been proven in the past, it's that if it can be done, Tesla will figure it out. Now, what's the timeline look like? That's up for debate. And another interesting tidbit we got from the earnings call was, for the first time, Tesla provided numbers on full self-driving. In fact, they said 1.1 million vehicles have FSD, and that includes people who bought it outright, but it also includes subscriptions. It does not include free trials. So this is the first time we're getting actual numbers. They provided a little bit of a history here. So 1.1 million is actually a really good number, and this is in support, of course, of Elon Musk's compensation package, which includes the requirement to achieve 10 million active subscribers to FSD. So about 11% there, I guess, if you include already paid. So this is going to continue to grow, and the reason is because just recently, as you've probably heard by now, Tesla does not plan on selling FSD any longer outright. It is subscription only in the future, and that future is only a few weeks away. I believe it's February 14th is the last day that you'll be able to purchase full self-driving outright. And after that, it's subscription only. And right now it's $100 a month. And that probably will go up, as Elon Musk has said, because we're on the cusp of unsupervised. And when that does happen, the value proposition certainly does change, whether it's for personal use or commercial. And speaking of commercial use, robotaxi, we now have about 500 robotaxis out in the wild. These are between just 2 cities right now, including Austin and San Francisco, or Silicon Valley, San Jose. These areas, about 500. To give you a bit of context, the entire Waymo fleet is estimated to be about 2,500 vehicles. So that's a huge chunk for just 2 cities. They've also provided a little bit of a roadmap, a very short roadmap, but it does include the next cities that they plan on launching, which does include where I live right now in Orlando, which is exciting to see. But there's a number of cities slated for the first half of this year. There's nothing listed beyond that, unfortunately, but it does include places like Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, Orlando, Las Vegas. So that's definitely interesting to see that we're finally getting a little bit of a roadmap, at least on timing, for robotaxi. But this is rolling out so fast that we're already about 20% the size of Waymo. Another really interesting thing that was stated on the call last night is Tesla says that they actually have a pretty big backlog, one that's bigger than what they've had in the past. And that certainly is surprising, because full volume is certainly down, but I guess if you look at this globally, perhaps in China and in Europe, there is a bit more of a backlog than there is here in the United States. So I guess globally there could be a decent backlog. That's kind of interesting and unexpected. That backlog will be filled though with existing capacity that they have on hand, because they have plenty of space to accommodate the current volume, which is about 1.6, 1.7 million in volume, which is down yet again another year. So bringing this around here, Tesla Semi, Tesla Cybercab from the automotive side, that is the focus right now. Just continuing to do what they're doing with Model Y, Model 3, cancel the S and X. Who knows what they're doing with Cybertruck? That's where the automotive side of Tesla is headed. That's what you should expect to see. On the other side, Optimus is certainly the golden child now. Everything is all in on Optimus. That is probably where more funds and more focus are across the entire company. Now, whether that's right or wrong is up for discussion, but that is certainly where Tesla is shifting the organization. They no longer want to be just a consumer automotive company, and they've been saying this forever. And in fact, I've argued myself that Tesla is more than just an automotive company, but they're definitely going bold right now and being very public and very intentional about how they're doing this. We're kind of at this point where they're basically becoming what they've aspired to be, and that's what's going to make 2026 extremely interesting to watch. But that doesn't mean it's not sad, because as an enthusiast, as somebody who enjoys these vehicles, watching them kind of go away piece by piece is definitely sad to see. If Tesla exits the mid-size SUV segment, they leave the entire market for traditional SUVs open for anybody, and that's definitely a sad moment. Sedans, on the other hand, here in the US, they are typically harder to sell anyways, so I'm not too surprised with that. But having this high performance four-door sedan has been amazing. Roadster apparently is going to replace that anyways. I really hope, even though this is not going to happen, that Cyber SUV comes, and if you have a Cyber SUV, why sell a Model X also? Perfect. Makes perfect sense. Of course, that's wishful thinking. So whether you like this or not, whether you saw this coming or not, this is where Tesla's headed. They are an autonomy company, they are robotics company, and they certainly are making it clear that robots and autonomy is going to be way bigger than the automotive business that most people, or most of Wall Street at least, considers them to be today. They are certainly identifying and showing that that's where they're at today. And I think after 2026, it's going to be very clear, with all of the supporting infrastructure in place, what exactly Tesla is. So let me know what your thoughts are about all of this. It's certainly, I think, sad, but what do you think about the S and X being canceled? And what do you think the chances are that we'll get a Cyber SUV? Are you hopeful like me? That's probably not likely, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I thank you so much for joining us today, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.